purpose of education for African people is to teach the children that white supremacy is normal. To teach your child that white people being in charge of everything is the way God made it. And then black religion comes in and co-signs this propaganda by telling you you're in your condition because Jesus set it up that way. You're not praying enough. That's why you're still in bondage. Your faith in Christ or Muhammad or Moses ain't strong enough, and as a result of that, you suffer. That has nothing to do with it. If it did, that means the white man is in charge because he's the holiest of us all. And we all know that's not true. We're in the condition we're in because we have allowed it. Mr. Garvey said what? Marcus Garvey said, black people are in the condition we are in, not only because we're black, but because we're disorganized. He said the greatest weapon used against the Negro is disorganization. Stokely Carmichael Kwame Ture said, if you organize a little, you get a little done. If you organize sometimes, you get something done. But if you don't organize at all, you don't get anything done. When is the last time we had a meeting in Manchester or Birmingham or Wolverhampton or Luton to talk about building another independent school or building an independent black financial institution so we can finance each other's businesses and entrepreneurial endeavors? Because make no mistake, the first two things we got to do is reclaim the minds of our children, and the second is economically empower our people. You're dead last in the UK, as we are in the States, because we're the only people who do not financially empower each other. Jews can go to Jews for their loans. Chinese can go to Chinese for their business support. Arabs can go to Arabs if they want to open up another gas station. But what can you go to another African for?
Nothing.
If you seek an economic empowerment. We are the laughing stock of the world because our strategy for freedom is to convince everybody else that what they're doing to us is wrong. Moral suasion didn't end slavery. Moral suasion didn't end segregation. And moral suasion is not going to liberate African people. The only thing that's going to liberate African people are African people. As Marcus Garvey said, no one can destroy the Negro except the Negro himself. Back home in America, we're getting ready for an election on Tuesday. Negroes are arguing in the streets over who to support. A Caucasian or a South Asian Indian. Those are the options. And nobody's discussing the fact that neither one of them are talking about anything relevant for black folks. Kamala Harris ain't got nothing on the agenda for black folks. Donald Trump ain't thinking about Negroes, but you got Republican Party plantation slaves and Democratic Party plantation slaves fighting all over social media over who's the best choice. They've manipulated us in America into this thing called choosing the lesser of the two evils. If you still in slavery, it don't matter which house you get sold to, you still on a plantation. And black folks in America, your brothers and sisters in Texas and Philly and Chicago and Detroit, Orlando and Miami, they don't want to be free. They just want the most convenient slave master. And I would argue that for most of us in the diaspora, as African people, we don't really want to be free. Most of you here don't want to be free. You just want a more comfortable oppression. Because freedom means accountability. Freedom means responsibility. Freedom means sacrifice. Life, comfort, and finances. If voting could change anything for African people, voting would be illegal. Why do you think the white man goes throughout Africa making it safe for democracy? He don't make Africa safe for development. He don't make Africa safe from his man-made diseases. He don't make Africa safe from exploitation from the World Bank or the International Monetary Fund, but he wants to make Africa safe for democracy. Why does the white man love democracy so much? Because he wants everybody to have a say in the government? No! The reason he wants to make the world safe for democracy is because popular elections can easily be manipulated. If you want to control the leaders, democracy is the best way to do it. Whoever gets the most money spent on their campaign, 75% of the time, will win the election. Because most people don't study candidates. We don't study Joe Biden. We don't study Kamala Harris. We don't study Donald Trump. Y'all don't study your elected officials here. I heard y'all got a Negro, a black woman, who's like Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas of the UK. I heard she's a stone cold Negro with the audacity to have Nigerian blood in her body. But guess what? Don't waste too much time demonizing her, because she's not the problem, as bad as she is. The problem is we as a community create them kind of people. See, the question is, how do we allow that to manifest? That's the question. What system do African people have in place in the diaspora to create African patriots? We don't raise African patriots. We don't build African patriots. We give birth to traitors and betrayers. And why? Because we don't have a system of punishment and reward. We're the only people who don't have a system of punishment and reward. Back in the days of the Italian mafia in New York City, the 5 families who ran the dope and the drugs and everything else, they had rules. That's why they called it organized crime. And one of the rules that La Cosa Nostra had was you cannot kill a woman, you cannot kill a child, you cannot kill an elder. If you kill a woman, a child, or an elder, your life will be taken. It doesn't matter if it was intentional or by accident. They had rules. But our children are in the streets running wild. Throughout the UK, the US, Toronto, everywhere I go in the world, black males are genociding other black males. And guess what? It ain't their fault. We allowed it. Poverty is the grandparent of all crime. Don't talk to me about stopping the knife violence in the UK if we're not going to do anything about poverty in the UK. Poverty is a breeding ground for violence. When you hear your elected officials talk about getting a handle on black knife violence, and they're not talking about addressing poverty, they're not talking about addressing the violence. The mother of all crime is miseducation. If you're not going to make the schools better, the crime won't go down, because a lot of it is psychologically motivated through desperation, and the rest of it is psychologically motivated by financial desperation. You want to reduce the crime without dealing with the economic reality? The first job of a man is to provide. If a man can't provide for his family, that engenders in him a certain level of stress, pain, hurt. And we know hurt people hurt people. But I don't see nobody building jobs for black males in the UK. I don't see nobody building jobs for black males in Toronto, in Montreal, in Nova Scotia. South Africa might have the worst black youth unemployment rate in the world. And you got a black ruling government doing nothing about the employment of black youth in South Africa, but they're talking about black on black crime in South Africa. They say apartheid fell in 1994. I haven't been to Africa more than any other country on the continent. I don't see where it fell. The ruling government doesn't own a diamond mine. The ruling government of South Africa doesn't own a gold mine. The ruling government of South Africa doesn't even have a bank. So what exactly do you rule if you don't rule the resources? This is why Osajifo, Dr. Kwame Nkrumah in neocolonialism, the last stage of imperialism. Nkrumah said, what good is a flag in an anthem? What good is colors in the right to vote when you don't control the land or the resources in it? Everybody knows whoever controls Africa controls the world. Look at the Chinaman. He all in Africa, all over Africa. I look at Ethiopia,